In this last video of this intro to world building, I'm going to show you how to create trees and plants. So let's start with the flat terrain template. And from here, we're going to start by creating a tree. And let's give ourselves a cylinder. Go ahead and select the part and add a cylinder. And let's bring this a little closer to ourselves so we can see it, and let's bring it up so that we can rotate it and scale it. You can choose to keep rotate on or move on depending on how you want to do it. If you uncheck rotate, then it gives you a lot more freedom, and we'll do that as we work with creating branches. So first we're creating a tree trunk, and the tree trunk, let's make it a little bigger. And taller. Go ahead and turn collisions on for the moment, just so that we can enforce it to the ground, so that if I press the letter F, I'm going to focus around this object. We're going to be able to turn around it quite a bit. So let's give ourselves a tree trunk, and let's call this trunk. And let's make sure that we anchor this. So if you go to anchor, now it won't fall over if we walk into it. And finally, let's give it a material. Let's give it a wood material, and then the color, just make it any kind of dark brown that you want. Okay. Next, we got to create some branches. So you can, with the same material and color, with this object selected, go ahead and duplicate it, and let's scale it down quite a bit. And then move it up, and you're going to want to pivot around the tree trunk, so keep an eye on that so you can double check that the parts are going in properly. You want to turn off collisions at this point. It's going to be anchored because it's already was anchored when you created it and duplicated it. And so now we're going to rotate this, and you can just kind of rotate it however you want. Give ourselves a little part here, give ourselves a branch. Put that in however you want. And let's go ahead and duplicate that again. Now, because collisions are turned off, you notice how it duplicated it. And so now we can bring this around, and let's rotate this. Whoops, grab what I want. There we go. Let's rotate this around. So I'm going to make a tree branch right here. And this is totally up to you to decide how you want your branches to look. You can make them shorter, you can make them longer, and however you want. The other thing you can do is create smaller ones. So let's go ahead and duplicate this, and let's move it, and let's make it a little smaller. And let's position it a little bit off of this other one. See how that looks? Move it up just a little bit. There we go. Alright, let's do another branch. Let's select this one, and we'll duplicate this one. And rotate it. And move it. Whoops, you gotta get a, there we go. Takes practice. And you can place these however you want. If I click and drag it, what'll happen is it'll match to the object, and then from there I can rotate it, and it makes it a little easier to rotate it and keep it in position. Okay, so again, this is totally up to you to decide how many you want. So now I've got these branches. The next thing I want to do is create the leaves. And for our purposes, we're just going to create some spheres, and we want to change these colors and make it look like leaves. So for the material, you can just choose, something like even the grass, and then of course you want to write the right color. And so now here we're going to resize these, and basically we're going to duplicate and group a bunch of leaves, spheres together to create the bunches of leaves like on a tree. One thing you want to do before I forget is go ahead and anchor this, because as you duplicate it, it'll be anchored if you've already started with it anchored. Otherwise it'll fall apart and you'll have a nice little falling apart tree, which is a cool effect, if that's what you wanted. Okay, go ahead and duplicate this, and let's move it out a little bit and up, and let's duplicate it again and move it over. Let's resize it, and let's duplicate again and move over. And so at this point we just kind of have a bunch right here. So now let's go ahead and select these, and I'm holding down Shift and I've selected them. And what I want to do is group them together, and now I want to call these leaves. And from here I want to place my leaves on my tree, and I want to duplicate these and create more. So at this point, that's a good spot. So let's go ahead and duplicate those, and let's raise it up. And now when I rotate these, this will actually give us more variety, because I can rotate these, and because I have different shapes clumped together, it adds a little more randomness to it and makes it pretty cool. So then you can also resize as a group, and then you've got this little randomness to it. Let's go ahead and duplicate this, move it over, and we're taking a look at our branches and see how they kind of intersect with it. And then I can even rotate this one again, just to again give it some variety. And bring it down just a little bit. Awesome. Now, at this point, you've got yourself a tree. And again, if you didn't like how something turned out, you can scale it and move it around, modify it a little bit. Just make sure that sits right on that branch. Awesome. Cool, man. All right, so now you got one tree. Now here's the cool thing. Let's go ahead and select all of this. I'm pressing in the Explorer, and I press Shift and I click, and now I've selected all of these. Now let's group all these together, and we're going to call this tree. One thing that happens is when you have a model that's grouped together like this, you need to set what is called the primary part. And the primary part is the part of the model that sets its location. And for us, within the tree, the primary part is the main trunk. And so what I want is to find the main trunk, the main trunk is this one. Now go back to the main model and select tree, and then it was that one, right? So let's rename that. Let's call this main trunk so that you can find it again. So with the tree grouped together, the tree selected, scroll down here and see how it says primary part. Now from here we want to click, and now it's waiting for us to select something. So come up here and select main trunk, and so now as you move this model together, it's going to keep that primary part as its main location and centering for everything. Now what I noticed is my branches, I got in here and my branches weren't quite right. So let's duplicate this and let's move that. And let's resize it. Move it a little bit. There we go. Now it looks like it matches my branches. Let's bring that in just a little bit. And again, you can mess with this, however you want. Okay, so now I have my tree. Well, if I want to have more trees, then all I got to do is duplicate my tree, and I've got myself another tree, and I can resize that whole thing. And now if you make it small enough, hey, look, it's a plant. And you can rotate it and give yourself some variety and make yourself a bunch of trees. Alright, hope you enjoyed that. Hope it was helpful. You can figure out how, obviously you can change the type of shapes, and you can combine the different shapes to create any sort of plant or flower or any other type of organic material. You get a sense for it as you play a lot of different games. You see how they create these environments. A lot of times people will use the plastic material and then just have some cool textures and colors. So there's a variety of things you can do. Hopefully this gets you started in creating your own trees and plants.